What's up everybody, it's the video expert. Let's talk about the X7, the new camera module from DJI that has been announced a couple of days ago. And it looks like a very interesting concept. And if you know me, of course, there's so much to love about this concept and maybe a few things that you might hate coming up. Alright everybody, if you noticed, I moved the microphone from here to there because in the last video it was all over the video. So I hope that's better, and I hope you can hear me. If not, let me know in the comments. Hello. Alright, so let's talk about the X7. It's the first aerial camera concept with a super 35mm sensor, much bigger than the Micro Four Thirds and the X5S, the previous concept from DJI. It's Inspire 2 compatible. You don't have to get a new drone for this camera module. It shoots 24 megapixel stills in 20 frames per second bursts. This should be very interesting for professional photographers as well, as we're getting closer to professional DSLRs with this aerial camera concept. Super 35mm, that's an APS-C equivalent, as you are seeing in, for instance, a Alpha 6500 or 6300, but still significantly bigger than Micro Four Thirds. It does have 14 stops of dynamic range, which is significantly more than the 12.8 stops of the X5S. So you should be able to retain a lot of detail in dark areas and very contrasty situations, bright sky, dark shadows. It should be possible to get many details back in post-production. It shoots a 6K RAW CinemaDNG and a 5.2K ProRes if you want to skip that CinemaDNG workflow and work with the usual ProRes footage. And it comes with 4 new lenses. Now that's the interesting part. DJI all of a sudden is selling the lenses. So the first batch of lenses, it's a 60mm lens with built-in ND filters, and the other lenses are 24mm, 35mm, and 50mm. But these don't have built-in ND filters, but do have mechanical shutters. Now, if you think of this strategy, why would it have ND filters in the 60mm and mechanical shutters in the other ones? I mean, I would not look at this camera module to being only an aerial camera system. If you take a look at the promo footage, you're seeing like car chases and all that. So you could totally mount it on a rig wheel system on a car. I'm constantly thinking of car chase scenarios. So that would be a great use for this camera, like very dynamic shots, and then it makes sense to have a mechanical shutter. And if you have aerial shots where you would actually need more wide-angle lenses, the ND filter makes much more sense. That's probably what DJI had in mind when they were developing this first batch of lenses. And these lenses are already 8K optimized, so that's a hint on what's coming in the future. Probably a new variation, a new evolution, next evolution of this camera module with a much bigger sensor. Since we are seeing an 8K RED camera already, that's probably something that would fit into this pipeline seamlessly. Talking about pipelines, this camera is certainly something that's professional cinematographers would take a closer look at. Not so much the indie filmmakers or the run and gun videographers like I am. I'm using a DJI Phantom 4. That's certainly enough for like weddings and stuff like that. So this concept is certainly something for the professional production. And with the new lenses, it also comes with a new DL mount, and it had to be done that way. So at first glance, you would think, okay, DJI is trying to sell lenses, make more money out of it. But it was certainly not an option when putting a bigger sensor into this module. It was certainly not an option to put E or F mount lenses on it, which are fairly heavy. Then this whole concept wouldn't work. I mean, it's already significantly bigger than the X5S already, but much bigger lenses, it wouldn't have worked. So they had to come up with a new mount system, and the flange focal distance is 17 millimeters, so it was able to build much more compact lenses. And for what you're getting, a super 35 millimeter sensor with these compact lenses, carbon fiber built lenses, it's actually great with what DJI was able to engineer. And therefore they had to come up with a new mount system, so it was possible to build much more compact lenses. Of course, the downside is you have to get new lenses. You can't use your EF portfolio in lenses that you might have, or Micro Four Thirds lenses. When you're looking at it as a professional cinematographer that doesn't have to get an Arri Alexa or a Red camera or even a Alexa Mini, this is still a much better choice for professional productions. It depends on the perspective that you're looking at this camera. DJI came up with a new cinema color system, and they quote, took their color science to a whole new level. I totally believe that. So the new D-Lock and the new D-Gamut RGB color space provides much more flexibility in post-production. And they already announced that there will be custom specific LUTs for this camera, for this sensor, which should be even better for matching colors and working with this new color science and the new sensor. And even if they haven't had custom LUTs for this sensor, having this flexibility with CinemaDNG and ProRes and RAW footage, it should be much better to work with. I mean, it has been shooting RAW already, the X5S camera module, but now with all these enhancements in dynamic range and signal to noise ratio, it has a significantly better signal to noise ratio. So all these things add up to being an incredible high-end system for professional cinematic productions. On top of that, it comes with an EI mode, which balances out dynamic range and noise to get even more out of the footage. So the camera's shipping in November, pretty soon already, for $2,700. The lenses are $1,300. The 50 millimeter lens is a little cheaper than the other ones. And there's also going to be combo packs available. So since this format is called Love and Hate, what are you going to love about this camera? Certainly the new Super 35 millimeter sensor. Well, when you hear that, you might be thinking, oh, shallow depth of field. It depends on what you're going to use this module for. If it's just for aerial footage, the bigger sensor might not make much sense compared to a Micro Four Thirds sensor. But when you're taking a closer look at the lenses with all the mechanical shutters on the 50 millimeter, 35 millimeter lens, this is certainly meant to be a module that you would be putting on a rig wheel system, as mentioned, in a car chase or something, and or in very dense situations where you don't have much space, and still want to retain this cinematic look of a bigger sensor. Then it makes perfect sense to have a much bigger sensor in this module. This is certainly something that will be utilized from professional cinematographers. And actually, there's not much that I could hate about this camera other than the pricing. As I said, that totally depends on how you're looking at the system. When you're looking at it as a indie filmmaker, a videographer, running gun videographer like I am, shooting weddings, corporate stuff, then it doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make sense to buy this module, to buy the new lenses. When you're looking at it as a professional cinematographer, then there's absolutely nothing to hate about this camera, because it makes perfect sense. It will blend into your production pipeline seamlessly. There's no need to put a red on a drone or something, let alone as getting an Alexa Mini as a crash cam, or settings as mentioned in a car chase or a car situation. I don't know, in a phone booth or whatever, you name it. When you don't have much space, you will certainly love such a compact system. And still be able to work with a bigger sensor and 6K RAW, maybe 8K RAW in the near future. I have to look at it as a videographer, so I totally hate that I would totally hate to have to buy new lenses. So I would suggest sticking with the X5S as the most professional level in shooting RAW in an aerial camera system. I'm not seeing shooters like myself buying this system, but I would certainly, if I get the chance, test it out and see how much better it looks, but you are still getting the new color science system, the new degamut color space in the X5S. So that will be updated as well, so you can benefit from the new color science development from DJI. So what do you think about this new camera module? Do you think it was a necessary evolution in aerial camera systems, or is it something that you would put into the professional cinematography corner and not really look at it as a online creator, run and gun videographer, indie filmmaker? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, as usual, please subscribe to not miss anything camera related, post-production, videography, After Effects, Premiere Pro tutorials. Hit that little bell to get notified, and thank you for watching, and see you next time.